بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين جل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. We said that after talking about the conflicting hadiths which are equal, now we want to talk about those which are not equal. Al-Khabaran, Al-Muta'aridan, Ghayr al-Mutakafi'ain. Two conflicting hadith that are not equal. Means one of them may have extra weight. There is a preference. Page 258. And we said we will talk about three issues. One is, what are those things that can be counted as preference? The second is, are those preferences to be taken only from the scripture, from the hadith, for example, or we can also add to the list of the preferences when something by common sense or by a rational argument also can be accepted as a preference. And the third point was whether it is necessary to follow those preferences or it's just recommendation. So there are three issues that we have to discuss. First, al-amr al-awwal fi bayan al-murajjihat al-khabariyah. The first matter, the first issue is explaining those preferences, those things that give preference that are in the hadith and relate to the conflicting hadith. نستعرض في هذا الأمر المرجحات الخبرية. In this first topic, first issue, we will we will deal with those preferences for akhbar that are indana, that we accept, or it is said that they can be murajjih. So he himself, as you will see, would not accept all the things that are mentioned as preference. So we deal with the things which are mentioned or we accept. First, at-tarjih bi-sifat al-rawi. One way of preferring one conflicting hadith over the other hadith is to look at the narrator and see, for example, this narrator is more knowledgeable, more pious, or not. Then, if you look at page 260, the second is at-tarjih bi-shuhrat al-amaliyya. To prefer one conflicting hadith over the other because this is the one that more fuqaha have acted upon it. It has become the basis for action. Means more fatwa has been issued based on it, so it has been taken into more consideration. Third, at-tarjih bi-muwafaqat al-kitab. The third thing that we will discuss is if one conflicting hadith is more compatible with the Quran. The fourth is at-tarjih bi-mukhalafat al-ammah. If one conflicting hadith is exclusive to the Shia and the other is more something for non-Shia. So we will talk about this. So these are four issues that we are going to talk about them. in al-amr al-awwal. So al-amr al-awwal في بيان المرجحات الخبرية, those things which are mentioned as reasons to give preference. So now let's go into each of them and discuss them one by one. الترجيح بصفات الراوي, to give preference to one side based on what? The qualities of the rawi, not anything about the hadith itself, not about the text, about the narrator. قد ورد الترجيح بصفات الراوي مثل الأعدلية والأفقهية والأسطقية والأورعية في غير واحد من الروايات. In more than one hadith, غير واحد من, means in more than one hadith we have received preference based on the qualities of the narrator, like who is more just, who is more afqah, more knowledgeable, astaq, more truthful, awra, more God-fearing, more pious. So among these two narrators, on this side or that side, find which narrator has these qualities more. And this is mentioned not in one hadith, في غير واحد من, more than one hadith. So there are few hadiths. Let us mention for you some of these hadiths. روى الكليني بسند صحيح عن عمر بن حنظلة. Sheikh Kulayni rahimahullah in Al-Kafi, in an authentic chain of narrators, quotes from Umar ibn Hanzala. So is this hadith sahih or not? No. This is not sahih. This is maqbula. Maqbula of Umar ibn Hanzala. So why he says bisanadin sahih? Means from Sheikh Kulayni up to Umar ibn Hanzala is sahih, not up to Imam. Because Umar ibn Hanzala himself is someone that would not fall under the requirements for sahih. He's not adl imam.
He's not imami.
It says, he says, لم يوثق في المصادر الرجالية. He was imami, but there is no tawthiq, there is no verification. But because our ulama over centuries have acted upon this hadith, have taken this hadith, as a reliable, so this would compensate for this problem. So you cannot technically say this hadith is sahih because you cannot verify him as an adil. But because ulama have accepted this, so maybe they had other evidence to make sure that this hadith was from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. So روى الكليني بسند صحيح عن عمر بن حنظلة. Did you get the point?
Yes.
It's a very important point. قال سألت أبا عبد الله عليه السلام. This hadith is a long hadith. I advise you to find the hadith, all of it, and in your mubahasa study all of it, because now we are discussing about this hadith in different places. In 4 places Ayatollah Subhani is bringing this hadith. But it's good to look at all hadiths together. So he says, I asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salam about 2 people who are min ashabina and rajulayn min ashabina. So it seems he himself also was a Shia. He says 2 Shia have munaza'ah. They have a conflict, a kind of case of disagreement. Fi daynin, not fi din. Fi dayn means there is a debt.
Loan debts.
Yes, a debt. أو ميراث, inheritance. فتحاكما إلى السلطان. Then they took this case to the ruler. Okay? The ruler of that time. وإلى القضاة, or the judges which are appointed by that sultan. أيحل ذلك, is it permissible? You go to a judge appointed by, for example, Bani Umayyah. Imam said, من تحاكم إليهم في حق أو باطل فإنما تحاكم إلى الطاغوت. Whoever takes his case to an unjust, illegitimate judge or ruler, whether he is right or wrong, whether this is his haq or is not his haq, you are not permitted to go to such people. وَمَا يُحْكَمُ لَهُ, when whatever is ruled, whatever sentence this judge makes and says, give it to him, إِنَّمَا يَأْخُذُ السُّحْتًا, this is باطل, this is false, this is not his haq. وَإِنْ كَانَ حَقًّا ثَابِتًا لَهُ, even if in reality it was his right, but he cannot take it based on the verdict of such illegitimate judge. لأنه أخذه بحكم الطاغوت, because it's now taking under the authority of this taghut, and this taghut has no authority. وَمَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ أَنْ يُكْفَرَ بِهِ, Allah has, this is what Allah has commanded to be denied. يريدون أن يتحاكموا إلى الطاغوت, Surah An-Nisa, verse 60. يريدون أن يتحاكموا إلى الطاغوت وقد أمروا أن يكفروا به. They want to take their case to Taghut while they were asked to deny Taghut. Yes.
So what about our circumstances here?
Yeah. This is actually something that then you have to ask your manager, because sometimes there are cases that maybe the judge is legitimate judge. For example, it's a democratic system and the judge is qualified, so that might be okay. Or sometimes even there might be cases that even the system is not just, but you have no other choice. So you have to ask. For example, I heard, I'm not 100% sure, I heard in the time of last regime in Iran, someone had misused the book of Ayatollah Mutahari, you know, and for example, publishing in his name, something like this. I heard, I'm not 100% sure. And he said, if needed, I take him to the court, even in that regime, to stop misuse of this, because then they may use it to project themselves as reliable, deceive people, whatever. So there can be cases that you have no choice other than referring to that court, if you are, of course, right. So you have to ask your marja. You cannot just read this hadith and say, for all people it is haram to go to the court or whatever. And first of all, we should see, is it an unjust ruler who is ruling in a Muslim state like Bani Umayyah, or it might be a non-Muslim country and they have a system and they, you know, are based on democracy running their country. That's different from Bani Umayyah. You cannot. So the best thing is to ask the matter. قلت فكيف يصنعان? So what should they do? If these two Shia in the time of Bani Umayyah or Bani Abbas have a case and they are not permitted to go to the judge of that system, what should they do? فكيف يصنع؟ قال ينظران من كان منكم ممن قد روى حديثنا. They should look for ينظر. They should look for someone from yourself, means from the community, who has narrated our hadith, means he is familiar with our hadith. وَالنَّظَرَ فِي حَلَالِنَا وَحَرَامِنَا. He has worked. Nadara doesn't mean just look at it. It means he has worked. He is familiar with our halal and haram. وَعَرَفَ أَحْكَامَنَا. He knows our rulings. فَلْيَرْضَوْا بِهِ حَكَمًا. They should be pleased with him to be the judge. Or, it's called قاضي تحكيم, arbitration, yeah? So he's not appointed, but two sides agree to take their case to him. فَإِنِّي قَدْ جَعَلْتُهُ عَلَيْكُمْ حَاكِمًا. I have made him a judge. So he has the authority because you have agreed. فَإِذَا حَكَمَ بِحُكْمِنَا فَلَمْ يُقْبَلْ مِنْهُ. If he issues a sentence and then it's not accepted, فَإِنَّمَا اسْتُخِفَّ بِحُكْمِ اللَّهِ وَعَلَيْنَا رُدَّهُ. So they have underestimated the ruling of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they have indeed rejected us. عَلَيْنَا رُدَّهُ. They have rejected us. وَالرَّادُّ عَلَيْنَا رَادٌّ عَلَى اللَّهِ. If someone rejects us, has rejected Allah. وَهُوَ عَلَى حَدِّ الشِّرْكِ بِاللَّهِ. And rejecting Allah is like shirk. Then he says, if instead of both of them agreeing on one person, each of them has chosen one person so that on their behalf they look into this case and make a decision. إن كان كل رجل اختار رجلا من أصحابنا. Do you understand? So it's not one person that both parties agreed. Each of them has chosen one person.
So it's two persons.
Now it's two persons. إن كان كل رجل اختار رجلا من أصحابنا فرضي أن يكون الناظرين في حقهما. And those two have accepted to look at their case. Or these two have accepted that those two look at their case. You can translate both ways. وَاخْتَلَفَا فِي مَا حَكَمَا. But then they made two different sentences. وَكِلَاهُمَا. And the reason for having different opinions is because each of them is quoting a different hadith. وَكِلَاهُمَا اخْتَلَفَا فِي حَدِيثِكُمْ. Okay, so they quote a hadith to support their opinion. Is it clear? So they don't have disagreement about the external facts, about particularities of the case. Their disagreement is based on hadith. Imam alayhi salam said, Al-hukmu ma hakama bihi a'daluhuma wa afqahuhuma wa asdaquhuma fil hadith wa awra'uhuma. The ruling, the sentence which is made by the one who is more just, more knowledgeable, more truthful in hadith, more pious. وَلَا يُلْتَفَتُ إِلَّا مَا حَكَمَ بِهِ الْآخَرِ. And the other hukm would not be counted, would not be paid attention to the other one.
No, but why would they agree?
Pardon?
They would not agree because each one thinks that theirs is the more biased one. That's why they got them there.
No. They don't disagree that which one is, because the community is known who is more pious, more knowledgeable. If they disagree, then this is not work. Then they have to go to the other thing. Because we have also other cases that he says, if both of them are the same. إن هذا القسم من الترجيح قد ورد في غير واحدة من الروايات. He says this type of tarjih, and that is tarjih based on what? On ruwat. Not on the hadith itself. This type of tarjih, to look which narrator is more just, more pious, more knowledgeable, more truthful, has occurred in more than one hadith. But he says if you look at all those hadiths, it's not actually about conflict of the hadith. It's about judging.
Conflict between the
judge. لكن الجميع راجع إلى ترجيح حكم أحد القاضيين على حكم القاضي الآخر. All of these hadiths relate to the case of preferring ruling of or judgment of one judge over the other judge. ومن المحتمل جدا. You know, of course, Ayatollah Subhani has his own view. Some may be different. Some say here judge is the same because the basis of judgment is hadith. But Ayatollah Subhani says no. Maybe there is a difference between this case and our case. Because here is when there is a conflict, there is a case, and they have to find a practical solution. So they have to find a way to choose one side over the other. But if it is just a fiqh issue and there is conflict, so they can wait, or they can delay, or they can have choice. In qada, in judgment, you cannot say you have choice to listen to this side or the other side. Do you understand? So he wants to say, maybe there is no possibility of extending what we have about judge to what we have about narrators. Is it clear? We have a istilah, we have a terminology in Hausa, we say, هل الفرق فارق أو لا؟ فارق. It's a very good terminology. So there is difference. But does this difference make the case different or not? Some differences are not differentiating the ruling. For example, a person asked Imam alayhi salam about a case. He was 20 years old. Then a similar issue has happened to someone who is 40 years old. Are they the same? No, so these are two different people. There is a farq, there is a difference. But this difference is not differentiating. It doesn't make difference, 20 or 40. So sometimes there is farq, but this farq is not fariq. Means it's not differentiating. It's just a difference. So you have to understand whether this is making the ruling separate or not. So some ulama say, although that is about judges, and we are talking about hadith narrated by narrators, but this is saying, but Ayatollah Subhanahu wants to say, no, maybe there is a big difference which differentiates the judgment. Because in the case of qadha, you have to settle this problem. You cannot wait, you cannot say you have choice, takhir. But in the case of hadith, you can say you have takhir or you can wait, for example. من المحتمل جدا. It's very likely. And you know, in such cases, just ihtimal is enough to stop extending the ruling of judge to the narrator. Yeah? إذا جاء الاحتمال بطل الاستدلال. Have you heard this? إذا جاء الاحتمال بطل الاستدلال. So if someone wants to say this is like that and there is likelihood that it is not, then istidlal is stopped. You have to be 100% sure. If someone says, this hadith means this, but we say, no, it may mean this, so he cannot argue. He has to prove that this is the meaning of hadith, either zahir or nas. So, من المحتمل جدا اختصاص الترجيح به لمورد الحكومة. It's very likely that ترجيح به means بصفات الراوي is for only حكومة, is like judge. حتى يرتفع النزاع وتفصل الخصومة, so that niza is finished and hostility, the fight between them is settled. Tufsal means is settled, finished. Pardon? Niza, conflict. ولا دليل على التعدي منه إلى غيره. There is no reason to extend this to another case, to go beyond حكومة to hadith. وذلك لأنه لما كان إيقاف الواقعة وعدم صدور الحكم غير خال من المفسدة أمر الإمام بإعمال المرجحات حتى يرتفع النزاع. Here the problem was that it could be leading to mafsada, to mischief, if we wanted to wait or do takhir. كان إيقاف الواقعة. إيقاف means suspending, keeping it as it is, not making a decision. عدم صدور الحكم, and not issuing any sentence, any verdict. This was not empty from mafsada, because people cannot wait like this. He has sold, for example, a house. Now they have this agreement, or there's the issue of earth. They have to decide. So, because this was not free from mafsada, from mischief or from problem, from losing interest, Amar al-Imam, Imam alayhi salam said, to apply those murajjahat, so that niza, the debate, the conflict is finished. Na'am. Yes. We have a hadith which is not about qadi. We have a hadith which is actually right about the case that we have, and that is about two hadiths that conflict. But that hadith is not very strong. Okay? نعم ورد الترجيح بصفات الراوي في مورد تعارض الخبرين. Exactly what is our issue. Okay, nothing about حكومة or قضاء. فيما رواه ابن أبي جمهور الأحصاء عن العلامة رحمه الله مرفوعا إلى زرارة. But it is مرفوع. So sanad has a problem. We don't have the name of all the narrators so that we can verify. لكن الرواية فاقدة للسند. The chain of narrator is not complete. يرويها ابن أبي جمهور عن العلامة. Ibn Abi Jumhur is a person who died in 900. Allama Hildi died 726. First of all, there is a gap here. And then Allama up to Zurareh, there's a big gap. ومثل هذا لا يصح الاحتجاج به أبدا. When there is such big gaps, even if one narrator is dropped, you cannot accept it. Let alone there are hundreds of years of gap. وَلَأَجْلِ ذَلِكَ لَمْ نَعْتَمِدْ عَلَيْهَا. Because of this, we don't trust this hadith. عَلَى ذَلِكَ. So, Those hadiths which are okay in sanad, the problem is about qazi. This one which is not about qadi, there is problem in sanad. على ذلك ليس هنا دليل صالح لوجوب الترجيح بصفات الراوي. So we don't have any suitable dalil, evidence, for saying that we prefer one conflicting hadith over the other because of the qualities of the narrator. So let's now focus only on the qualities of the hadith themselves, the text. So we move to the second type of tarjih, at-tarjih bi-shuhrat al-amaliyya. Okay? To see which of these two hadiths is practically more well known. Means more fuqaha have trusted it and accepted it and issued fatwa based on it. قد ورد الترجيح بالشهرة العملية. What do we mean by الشهرة العملية? أي عمل جل الأصحاب بالرواية or عمل. You can read it as a verb. عمل or عمل. عمل جل الأصحاب. جل means majority. Okay, we have كل and we have jul. Kul means all, jul means majority. So majority of ashab have acted according to this hadith. دون الرواية الأخرى, not the other side of the conflict. Okay, so you have two sides. If majority of ulama have taken one side in their amal, in their practice, so you go by this one. في المقبولة السابقة. This tarjih has occurred in the same مقبولة عمر بن حنظلة. فقد طرح عمر بن حنظلة مساواة الراويين في الصفات. He has raised. Taraha here means raised. He raised this issue. Because taraha in Arabic mostly means to drop and reject. In Farsi we use it more for raising something, but maybe in Arabic also. But فقلت إنهما عدلان مرضيان عند أصحابنا. After Imam said, look which one is more afqah, a'dal, astaq, awra', he says both of them are adlan, they are just. مرضيان عند أصحابنا, they are accepted, they are pleasing to our Shia community. لا يفضل واحد منهما. We cannot say which one is better than the other one. They have respect for both of them in an equal way. Okay? So it means that you cannot use the qualities of the narrators. فقال. Then Imam said, in that case, ينظر إلى ما كان من روايتهم عنا في ذلك الذي حكم به المجمع عليه عند أصحابك. If they are the same in their taqwa, everything, the narrators, or in this case the judges which are looking to those hadiths, look at the hadith, that hadith that they narrate from us, which is what they have about that case that they have hakama, they have made verdict. Which of them is al-mujma'a alayh inda ashabik? Which of those hadiths is something that all your Shia brothers accept? فَيُؤْخَذُ بِهِ مِنْ حُكْمِنَا. So this will be then taken. وَيُتْرَكُ الشَّاذُ النَّادِرُ. But the other side, which is not very famous, this will be left. الَّذِي لَيْسَ بِمَشْهُورًا عِنْدَ أَصْحَابِكَ. So you have a hadith that Shia accept as a hadith from us. And there is a hadith which is very rarely mentioned. You take the one which is established and Shia accept it. فإن المجمع عليه لا ريب فيه. The hadith which is agreed upon, everyone says this hadith is existing in our collections of hadith from Ahlul Bayt. You take that one because this is free from doubt. لا ريب فيه, there is no doubt about it. إنما الأمور الثلاثة. Then Imam says affairs are one of the three. There are three types of affairs. بَيِّنٌ رُشْدُهُ. Some of the things are very clearly good. رُشْدُهُ means their goodness, their guidance is clear. فَيُتَّبَعْ. So you follow them. Crystal clear, you follow it. أَمْرٌ بَيِّنٌ غَيُّهُ. There are things that it's clear that they are wrong, they are false. فَيُجْتَنَبْ. They will be avoided. But there are issues, amrun mushkil. If there are things which are problematic, not clear, not clearly good, not clearly bad. So here, yuraddu ilmuhu ila Allah wa ila Rasulih. Here you should leave it to Allah and the Prophet, and don't make any, loose decision here. Ayatollah Subhani again has a problem here. And he says the same issue that we mentioned before can come here. That this question and answer which Umar ibn Hanzala has with Imam Sadiq is about the case of conflict between two people, and they need to settle it. They need to go to a judge or someone who can settle the case. There is a problem of not solving this issue because mafsada can come. But this is different from our case, which is only about hadith for fiqh, not a practical case in the court. يحتمل جدا. It's very likely اختصاص الترجيح بالشهرة العملية بمورد القضاء وفصل الخصومة. It's very likely that tarjih based on shuhrat amaliyah is exclusive to judgment and settling debates. Okay? اختصاص الترجيح بالشهرة العملية بمورد القضاء. Is it clear?
Is this the same as the previous argument?
Yeah, the same thing.
Only ikhtisas for qadi and
Yes.
hukm.
Yeah. He says there is very great chance that this was only about qadi and solving the problem that someone has about earth or dain and this type of practical issues that you cannot wait. الذي لا يصح فيه إيقاف الحكم. We cannot suspend. إيقاف means suspend the verdict, the sentence. فيرجح أحد الحكمين على الآخر بملاحظة مصدره. We have to make a hukm. There are two hukm. One based on a hadith which is well established among the community. The one is very odd hadith. So you go to the one which is more famous in its basis. So it's based on a hadith which is very established. أما لزوم الترجيح بها. Necessity of preferring biha. What is biha? بالشهرة العملية. biha means بالشهرة العملية. لزوم الترجيح biha. The necessity of preferring based on شهرة عملية, even in the case of تعارض الخبرين. So it means to extend it from قضاء to تعارض الخبرين. في مقام الإفتاء, when you want to give fatwa, not حكم. فغير ظاهر من الحديث. This is not very clear in the hadith. It's not easily understandable from hadith. لا يثبته ولا ينفيه. This hadith is silent about this. Is not confirming or is not rejecting. The hadith is not talking about this issue. إلا إذا قيل بإلقاء الخصوصية بين المقامين عرفان. Unless someone says what people, the common sense would understand is that qadha and fatwa are the same. Whether it is a problem between two judges based on those two hadiths or two muftis based on those two hadiths, the same. If someone can, between him and Allah, say, I am sure, that would not make any difference. إِلَّا إِذَا قِيلَ, unless it is said that إِلْغَاء الْخُصُوصِيَّة means there is no difference between the two. Means, although it was about qadha, but qadha was not particularly important. إلغاء الخصوصية. Okay, it's clear?
Sir, Sheikh, is it possible to, this is Sheikh Ja'far Subhani's opinion, right?
Yeah.
Is it possible that he could be wrong?
Yes.
And that there is no ikhtisas? Is this possible?
Yeah. So he says, if you can prove that, he himself is showing you, if you can say that I am sure that there is no difference. ببيان أن المرجح كون الخبر مشهورا أو شاذا. If you can come to this conclusion that what is important is whether hadith is mashhur or shaz من دون النظر إلى كون المورد حكما شرعيا أو قضاء بين المتحاكمين. So you can generalize and say, although the question and answer was about judging, but I understand that it's not only about judging. It, like if a man asks a question, so many questions that we have, a man has asked a question, but we say a woman also would be sharing the same hukm. Yeah? If there is a case that really the gender can change, then you cannot do ilgha'ul khususiyah. But if it is a general, for example, someone has a doubt about wuzu, doubt about tahara, about recitation in salah, a man is asking, or a young person is asking, or a person from a village is asking, we generalize. We say these are not particularly important characteristics. We do ilgha'ul khususiyah. But if there is something that might bear on the case, might make different issues, then you cannot do ilgha'ul khususiyah.
What does shaz mean?
Pardon?
Shaz?
Shadh means odd.
Huh?
Odd.
Odd.
Something which is odd and rare.
Unusual.
Unusual.
Rare.
3. الترجيح بموافقة الكتاب. If you are not tired, I mention at least this one. Okay? If you are tired, I can mention 2. Okay. الترجيح بموافقة الكتاب. One of the preferences which we find in some hadith, which is about narration, about the hadith, not about narrator, is to look at the hadith and see, is it compatible with the Quran or not? So there are 2 conflicting hadiths. One of them is in full compliance with the Quran and the other is not. And there is a very important point here. When we say muwafaqatul kitab, mukhalafatul kitab, we don't mean one is compatible and the other one contradicts the Quran. Because if the other one contradicts the Quran, it's not at all forming ta'aruz. We are talking about that type of mukhalafa which is for, something that you can forgive. Like, for example, am wal khas. One hadith doesn't make takhsis of Quran, the other one makes takhsis. Making a takhsis is not a problem. Or one is mutlaq keeping ayah mutlaq as it is, the other one is doing taqyid. So this type of things we are talking about. Not something totally against the Quran. If something totally against the Quran, from the beginning we leave it aside. You understand? إن الإمعان في المقبولة. إمعان means to ponder. إمعان النظر means deep looking at something. Means if you really focus, if you ponder. المقبولة. What do you mean with مقبولة? مقبولة عمر بن حنظلة. If you look at it carefully, يثبت أن صدر الحديث بصدد بيان مرجحات القضاء. The beginning of the hadith, it's all about what can prefer one sentence, one judgment to the other judgment. But the person who is asking question keeps asking, finally reaches the point that everything goes back to the hadith. لكن السائل لما وقف على أن الإمام عليه السلام يقدم رأي أحد القاضيين على الآخر بحجة أن مستند أحدهما هو الخبر المجمع عليه بدا له أن يسأله عن تعارض الخبرين. The way I read is important. If you know how to read, then meaning becomes clear. Okay? So, the beginning of hadith, Sadrul hadith was about what? Judgment. Qadha. Lakin nas-sa'il. Sa'il, the questioner, Umar ibn Hanzala, when he realized, لما وقف على, he became aware that Imam alayhi salam yuqaddimu, prefers the opinion of one judge over the other judge because of what? Because the mustanad. Mustanad is what he used as evidence, as a sanad for himself. Yeah. So one of them argues based on what? On a hadith. أن مستند أحدهما هو الخبر المجمع عليه. One of them has used hadith which is agreed by all, agreed on by all. So when he saw this, he realized that Imam is giving this preference. Bada lahu. It appeared to him, it came to his mind that let me ask him another question. Bada lahu. Bada, you know the meaning of bada.
Yeah, one of the qaidas.
In aqaid, bada means change of mind. Of course, in aqaid has another meaning, but it's literal mean change of mind. Bada lahu means it came to his mind to ask another question. And yas'alahu an ta'arud al-khabarain. So it occurred to him, let me ask Imam about conflict between two hadiths. وَمُرَجِّحَاتِهِمَا, and what can be giving preference to hadiths which conflict with them. مَعَ قَطْعِ النَّظَرِ عَنْ كَوْنِهِمَا مَصْدَرًا لِلْقَضَاءِ. Regardless of whether these hadiths are used for judging, as a basis for judging or not. Masdar means evidence, reference for judging. Okay? So, this is why Ayatollah Subhani is happy with this one. Muwafaqat al-Kitab and the next one. He accepts only these two. Because the beginning he says it's about judging. But now he says, although he started with asking about judging, but now the question has become only about hadith. Okay. He said, Qala, who? No. As-sa'il, the questioner. إن كان الخبران عنكم مشهورين. After Imam said, look which hadith is mashhur in the Ashab mujma' alayh, he says, if both of them are mashhur, قد رواهما الثقات عنكم. Reliable narrators have narrated both of these hadiths from you. Imam alayhi salam said, ينظر فما وافق حكمه حكم الكتاب والسنة فيؤخذ به ويترك ما خالف حكمه حكم الكتاب والسنة. There is of course another thing, خالف العامة, that we will explain later in some versions, but we discuss this separately. So it will be looked at it and see which one is muwafiq, it's in compliance with the book and sunnah, and will be taken. This يدل على الترجيح بموافقة الكتاب والسنة, and there are not only, for example, one hadith like this, there are also other hadiths. يدل على الترجيح بموافقة الكتاب والسنة غير واحد من الروايات. It's more than one hadith. For example, عبد الرحمن بن أبي عبد الله قال قال الصادق عليه السلام. A narrator who is Abdul Rahman says, I asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, this Abi Abdullah is the father of Abdul Rahman, is different from Imam himself. So Abdul Rahman, the son of Abi Abdullah, another Abi Abdullah, narrates from Imam Sadiq. Imam Sadiq said, إِذَا وَرَدَ عَلَيْكُمْ حَدِيثَانِ مُخْتَلِفَانِ. If two hadiths that differ come to you, فَأْرِضُوهُمَا عَلَى كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. فَأْرِضُوا, not أَعْرِضُوا. فَأْرِضُوا. Present them, expose them, present them to the book of Allah. فَمَا وَافَقَ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا خَالَفَ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ فَرُدُّوهُ. That's hadith. Because it's mukhtalifan, they're different, yeah? They disagree, differ. The one that is in compliance with the Quran, take it. The one which is in conflict, leave it. So, this is the one that Ayatollah Subhani accepts, because we have it in different hadiths, and even in Maqbuli Umar ibn Hanzaleh, it is about the hadith, not about judging. But it is not only that, we have also other hadiths. But there is a final point, which we finish with this final point, and that is what I said at the beginning of this discussion about kitab. That when we say mukhalafatul kitab, we mean mukhalafa which is not in the sense of contradiction. Because if it's in the sense of contradiction, right from the beginning we leave it aside and there will be no ta'aruz. Ta'aruz is between two hadiths that each of them by itself can be valid. Okay? ثم إنه ليس المراد من مخالفة الكتاب هو المخالفة بالتناقض والتباين الكلي. When we say mukhalif, we don't mean something which is completely against the Quran, contradicting the Quran. لأن عدم حجية المباين الصريح معلوم. Something which is clearly against the Quran, contradicts the Quran, is clear that has no validity. Salaam alaikum. لا يحتاج إلى البيان. This doesn't need any explanation. وَلَا يَذَعُهُ الْوَضَّاعُونَ. Also those who fabricate hadith, they don't fabricate a hadith which is clearly against the Quran. Like those who want to fabricate notes, they don't fabricate a note which doesn't exist. Yeah, for example, 30 pound note. No one fabricates 30 pound note. لأنه يواجه من أول الأمر. Because if they fabricate something which is 100% against the Quran, so they will be faced from the beginning بالنقد والرد, criticism and rejection. No one is going to take it. Those who fabricate a hadith, because the chances that this one side might be fabricated, for example, they would not fabricate something which is 100% against the Quran. لأنه يواجه من أول الأمر بالنقد والرد بأنه كذب موضوع على لسان الإمام. It's created and fabricated and put on the tongue of Imam, means attributed falsely to the Imam. Is it clear? موضوع على لسان الإمام means they fabricate and put it on the tongue, means they falsely attribute to Imam. فإذن المراد من مخالفة الكتاب هو المخالفة بمثل العموم والخصوص. What we mean by مخالفة here means something which is not that radical, something that is manageable, like umum wa khusus. لو كان أحد الخبرين موافقا لأموم الكتاب والآخر مخالفا له بنحو التخصيص. So one of them lets the umum, generality of the text of Quran remain, the other one wants to limit it. To limit is not a problem, because hadith which is authentic can limit the scope of the meaning of the ayat which are am. But the preference is if it doesn't limit. So if there are two, one of them limits, the other one doesn't limit. فَلَوْ كَانَ أَحَدُ الْخَبَرَيْنِ مُوَافِقًا لِأُمُومِ الْكِتَابِ, is in compliance with the generality of the ayah. وَالْآخَرْ مُخَالِفًا لَهُ بِنَحْوِ التَّخْصِيص, but the other one differs because wants to limit it. يُؤْخَذُ بِالْأَوَّلِ دُونَ الثَّانِي, you take the one which takes the umum as it is, not limits it. وإن كان المخالف حجة يخصص به الكتاب إذا لم يكن مبتلا بالمعارض. وإن كان, even if we know that the one which is not compatible, the one which is doing takhsis, in itself was okay. It is, if it was hujjah, it could have done this. Do you understand? So, if you have two hadiths, and each of them is by itself standing for validity, okay? It stands for all the tests for validity. But one of them is not interfering even with the umum, the zawahir of the kitab. And the other one wants to interfere with the zawahir. We take the one that doesn't interfere. Although if it was the only one and it is hujjah, it could limit the arm or do tagheed of itlaq. So we stop here, and inshallah we finish the whole book inshallah next session. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.